Welcome back, my fellow Warcraft grognards, and we have talked recently about the old RPGs of the days of yore. The RPGs that were made basically for the third edition of D&D. And it has been a very long time since Blizzard has done anything with that. The last book for the old RPG came out in, let me check, the last book from the official RPGs came out in 2008. We now have 2025. That was 17 years ago. Like, entire people have been born. Like, I'm pretty sure that have new countries have popped up since then, because it's been a long time. And it's really strange to me that Blizzard, the people behind Warcraft, inside Blizzard, that they do not try to really do anything with it, with given how popular the fifth edition of D&D has become, and how tabletop RPGs really shot up in popularity since that time when they actually did do the official RPG supplements. Maybe they feel burned out. They feel burned on the whole RPG idea after some things with the RPGs didn't go exactly as they planned, but they really could make now the any official fifth edition adaptation of World of Warcraft would be even more popular, would be far more popular than those original RPGs have been in their time. They aren't doing anything with it. I really think they should do something about it, but until they do, it fell to fans to do something about it. So after having looked in detail, not small detail, I might look in more detail into those original RPGs. But after having looked at those original RPGs, I thought I would look at what the best thing we have for the fifth edition of D&D for World of Warcraft as a tabletop game, besides, of course, my own system, which I think is, of course, far superior than any other RPG, obviously. But this is the best thing we have for the fifth edition of D&D for World of Warcraft, and it is a fan work. And I would like to take a look at this, and I have not taken a very detailed look at this book yet. I have been in the Discord server for this adaptation, so I had access to it, but I haven't really taken a really detailed look at it. And I would like to today to take a look at this and see how well it works for Warcraft, and how well it works for a tabletop RPG in general. And because it is fan work, you have to bear this in mind, that you will not find a very rich, like graphical layout. They're doing their best as fans, as amateurs. They are doing their best, but so you have to just measure your expectations. Do not expect like a very flashy modern book that has all the colors and layouts of like standard 5th edition manuals. So do not expect that. You have to explain a fairly plain text, as you can probably see now. But nevertheless, for from what I have seen already, it has done a very good job for what resources they had available to them. And I would like to take a look. We should take a look together and at what this adaptation does, and we can analyze how well it does D&D and how well it does Warcraft. And already in the introduction, I see that there are I think, the naming conventions, the things that are different between standard D&D and Warcraft. And this with the attributes being named differently, I think that was, if I recall correctly, that was a thing in the old RPGs. I didn't really talk about it because it just didn't really come up. I didn't look into it in that much detail, but do think that these like naming conventions for the attributes there were also in the old system, and it makes sense. I like that in the old system, and I like that here. It was probably heavily inspired by that system. So dexterity is named agility, like in World of Warcraft. Wisdom is named spirit, and that is the thing that I think they did in the second RPG, in the WoW RPG. And constitution is named stamina. So that's all par for the course. That makes perfect sense. And very rare rarity is called epic because of course that's the quality names in the actual MMO. And I do the same thing. I have items that I have to can't call them common because of the peculiarities of the bot we're using to track inventory on our Discord server. So I can't call it common quality. So I have to call it basic quality, because if I called it common, then and I try to use the bot to give people common quality items, it gives them uncommon quality items instead, because the name of the item, because the name of, say, common healing potion, the name of that is entirely within the name of uncommon healing potion. So if I try to give them common healing potion, it would give them an uncommon healing potion instead. So I can't call them common. It's a peculiarity of the bot. If I had like my own VTT, if I could make my own VTT, which I can't because we don't know any real programmers, I would make them common, uncommon, rare, and then epic. So it all makes sense. Something that is a little bit stranger, a little further down I see, is that the classes, it says here that classes are renamed, but then later in the book, I have like taken some looks at the book. Later in the book, it actually gives you different classes. I don't know what is the purpose of this even being here when the book lists all the classes and unique subclasses for all those classes. So like I don't know what is the purpose of this when the cleric never really comes up. Is it like maybe like to just give people who don't know the setting an idea that we don't have clerics here, we have priests. You don't have fighters, but you have warriors. Like maybe they should give people but then again, like how many people who don't know the setting are going to try to play this adaptation? Is going to be pretty much like 99% people who already played World of Warcraft and who already know what those classes are, and maybe like one or two friends they have invited into their group. So that's a peculiar choice. Like some spells, they name some spells that have been renamed. I haven't checked if there are like spell lists with like detailed spell descriptions in this book. I haven't checked that. Maybe magic jar. This is how I find out there is a spell called the magic jar in D&D. I did not know that. Like Ray of Frost is Frostbolt instead. Like it makes sense. It makes sense that that these will be roughly equivalent spells. But there's probably a lot more spells from D&D that do not have exact translations, and I don't know what drove them to pick those particular spells. Something that I think I should also mention, or you should keep in mind, besides it being a fan adaptation, besides it being a fan work, is that this has been discontinued since about the time of like Battle for Azeroth, because I have seen some Battle for Azeroth things, but since around Legion and Battle for Azeroth timeline, since around then this RPG has been discontinued. So you will not see things from Shadowlands or from Dragonflight or War Within. You will not see things from that in this book, because I think the author of this RPG said that Shadowlands was a major element that caused him to stop being interested in continuing this system, this game. and I don't blame him entirely. Something that this so we not see these very new things. But something that I knew this system had was that it was a variant rule that didn't use uh, the very Vention magic system of D&D with the spell slots, and instead it opts to use mana. So let's read more about this. And some spells are changed in function or name. All such spells are referred to with the new names rather than their old names. Mana and prepared spells are also used as a core magic system, not spell slots. Mana restores over time while resting by drinking certain potions and by using certain abilities. This is detailed further under chapter 10. So yeah, this it makes sense that they would abandon, and I like that they abandon the spell slots, because this is spell slots are very heavily based in the lore of the D&D universe, D&D multiverse. They are heavily based on that, and I always lament when people make like adaptations of other settings into the D&D system and they just copy spell slots when they don't make sense in the lore of that game. And I really like that they changed that here and they added mana. So classes, as detailed below, some classes gain different abilities to better synergize with the mana system, while others are renamed as above. They're not really renamed, they really made different classes. You rearranged, rejiggled them a little. You didn't really rename them. It's semantics. I will not argue about semantics here. This is a very small, very pedantic thing about there's no ethereal plane, so there's no etherealness. There is just incorporeality. So while there were like very significantly like incorporeal units, they were untouchable by non-magic spells in like Warcraft 3. Like, remember the mission where you are fighting to stop Illidan from breaking the frozen throne, and he has these 3 Naga channeling the spell into the Eye of Sargeras, and those Naga were incorporeal, where they were ethereal, and you couldn't touch them with anything but magic. Well, they were the reverse of the usual magic community. So that does exist in the setting, that does exist in the lore. Is it really necessary to just change that name when it's the same effect? I don't know. And of course it adds the Fel or Chaos damage type. I would have called it Chaos. I know that WoW Warcraft now tries to shun away from using the word Chaos too much because Warhammer people got mad because they are very litigious. They got mad about using too much Chaos, but I don't publish a commercial material, so I don't have to worry about their lawsuits, because I do not profit in any way from the Chaos. So I do not really have to worry about them. Like, if Games Workshop comes after me for using Chaos in a Warcraft game, that will be a whole new level of petty. Like Wizards of the Coast sending Pinkertons against actual Pinkertons against people who posted images of cards online. But so it's not impossible that it would happen, but it would be a whole new level of petty. Anyway, so with chapter 1, step-by-step characters, what do we have here? When determining your ability scores, there are 2 new methods to create them: the focused method and the heroic method. Both yield higher attributes on average, suitable for the many challenges in the Warcraft universe. Ability score summary. Strength, we know what strength is. We get a brief summary of racial increases to strength, and I think these are listed again under the proper races, so I'll not think about it too hard here. It just tells you what the attributes are. Determining ability scores. Focus and foible. This method leads to more focused characters with clearer weaknesses. Before applying modifiers, choose a 1 focus choose one focus, just choose one focus, I think. An ability score you're good at, and one foible. An ability score you're bad at. Focus, mark this attribute as 18. Foible, mark this attribute as 8. Set your remaining attributes at 10, and distribute 16 points among the ability scores in any way you desire. You may reduce an existing attribute by up to 2 points and to gain 2 points to add another. So it's point buy. It's point buy system with the caveats that one is at 18 and another is at 8. Besides that, it's pretty much point buy system. So it's just point buy with an added caveat. Heroic roll. This method leads to generally stronger characters than by normal rolling. For each ability score, roll 2d6 plus 6. So how much does it give us? I'm going to check with Discord. How much does it give us? 2d6 for each attribute. For each ability score, roll 2d6 plus 6. So
Goblin dice, but
so we end up with a
crasher request. 2d6 plus 6 roll
14.
6. 2
I
equals 14.
should set Discord at 2d6 plus 6. We have to do this 6 times for
Goblin
the ability
dice, but
scores.
game die parrot crasher request. 2d6 plus 6 roll 5. 1 equals 12. Goblin dice, but set game die
Got
parrot
5.
crasher request. 2d6 plus 6 roll 6.
So we got
4
what?
equals
We got
16.
14, 12,
Goblin
16,
dice, but set
14,
game die parrot
12,
crasher
and
request.
15.
2d6 plus 6 roll 4. 4 equals 14.
So that's not
Goblin
really
dice, but
like a
set
very.
game die parrot crasher request.
It's a character
2d6
that
plus 6 roll
has.
4. 2 equals 12.
Okay, just shut up already. It's not like a very strong character. It's just a less bad character, because there is nothing below 10. At 10 or below, the lowest we got was 12. Like, what is really the lowest number you can get? Let's say you roll 1 on both these sixes, so that's 1 and 1. That's 2 plus 6. That's 8. So the lowest you can get is 8, and the highest you can get is 12 plus 6, 18. So that it's a pretty average. Sounds pretty average to me. So I don't know if that's really that much stronger, just by initial analysis. But let's see. See, this is also gives us 20 levels. I still like to imagine that one day someone would make like a Warcraft RPG that is much closer to the actual in-game World of Warcraft system. And I know that not all of the systems in the MMO are really translatable into a TTRPG. But I like to imagine that somebody would one day do a system that bases it on more closely on the World of Warcraft mechanics, where you would not get these 20 D&D levels, but you instead would get like 60 levels like you did in vanilla World of Warcraft, and then you would get like an expansion to get like 70, 80. I like to imagine that somebody would do that one day, and maybe the levels would just come much faster to you. So instead of like needing this is wealth, this is not XP, this is wealth, I just noticed. So instead of I don't have the XP values for D&D right now in front of me, but like, imagine the levels just come to you much faster, and you can get over your campaign to level 60 instead of level 20. But this is D&D. This is D&D, so it uses the D&D system of going up to level 20, and it does not have epic characters from like the 3rd edition D&D, because I think 5th edition still doesn't do epic characters. I also find that strange, because why did they still never do the old like level 30 epic characters? Anyway, and first levels. include crafting subsystems and classes, and various such as an alchemist and tinker, and various options such as the infusionist feat that can translate wealth into character power. When creating a character from above first level, refer to the following guidelines for expected wealth for level to give a general idea how to keep characters on the same general level of wealth. I don't know how they calculated that. Maybe it took a lot of playtesting to get these values and seeing how much gold people made over those levels. And maybe someone just arbitrarily set these numbers up here. I don't know. Maybe if the authors of the RPG would come to the comments and explain a few things, maybe they will let you know how these things came to be the way they are. I haven't really looked into a lot of the history behind this adaptation, so there's a lot of probably a lot of background details that I do not know. But yeah, this is very interesting. Chapter 2, races. Yeah, each race has a role in the world, and the deeds resonate through the ages. Yeah, this is a lot of flavor. That each race in Warcraft has affinity to one creature that serves as a primary mount. I don't know why this is important. I don't know why this is important about what kind of specific mount you would get. You see, Voidos are there, so it is at least after Legion it was still being done. Turbotrike is there. Interesting. So Draenei, we get a fan favorite Draenei that for many years were much maligned for being the child of a retcon. Draenei are powerfully built. I think that should be a T there. A powerfully built alien race that originates from Argus. That are powerfully magically attuned and have the potential for exceptional good or evil. Draenei who succumbed to fell magic form the ranks of the Eredar, the greatest generals of the Burning Legion, while Draenei who serve the Holy Light are immortal crusaders for justice across the cosmos. Technically, the Eredar are not the Draenei who succumbed to fell magic. Technically Draenei are the Eredar who refused to succumb to fell magic, because the Eredar came first. But that's just me being pedantic. Let's see what this gives us. Your spirit and intelligence, so it would be wisdom and intelligence in D&D, increases by 1. It's pretty standard for especially the older editions of D&D. Typical Draenei claims adulthood around 100 years old and can live to about 10,000 years old. I believe that is complete fan fiction. Nothing wrong with that being fan fiction, because if you were writing a book like this, you would have to come up with something to put there. But I don't think this is very well sourced, very well based in source material, because there is quite a few Draenei who remember Argus, and that was supposed to be 25,000 years ago. I saw somebody mention somewhere that the Argus events actually were not 25,000 years ago, because it was some kind of a misinterpretation. I need to look into that separately. But there are Draenei who grew up in much shorter time, so you have to make up some fan fiction at this point, but this is not the numbers I would give them. In my old craft, I made it so that Draenei just grow up at the same rate as most humanoid races, so 18-20 years, and then they live about same as elves normally, so 3,000, 4,000 years tops, usually much shorter than that. So yeah, each subrace has its own affiliations. We have to look into those affiliations later. I don't see any mention of alignments, and I don't even really remember if 5th edition mentions alignments really anywhere in the race stats. The 3rd edition used to mention alignment everywhere. Usually it would be any alignment, but there were races that would have particular affiliations to a particular alignment. And does 5th edition still do that? Let me know. and their skin color is affected by the magic they naturally absorb, or spell magic reddening them, holy magic rendering the skin blue to violet. I don't know if it does that. We have seen like flashbacks to the Eredar before Sargeras, and they just looked blue, so it's just the natural color is blue. And it says the void magic darkening them to brown. I don't recall seeing any brown Draenei. And like the void corrupted the broken in Argus were still mostly blue with like void goo growing on them. So I don't think that's accurate at all. Languages you can speak Right and Right, Common, and Eredon. The Eredon Draenei speak is an altered dialect that is less corrupt and thus does not impose penalties when speaking, but is perfectly understandable by fiends. Yeah, that's the thing with the Eredon. It was supposed to be the original demonic language in Vanilla WoW. Then they retconned the Draenei being the original users of Eredon, and the language was supposed to be corrupting. But then these holy Draenei were still using the same language, and I guess this tries to reconcile those retcons. Ancient events divide the Draenei into two sub-races, Unbroken and Broken. Choose one of these sub-races, so I guess they just decided to call regular Draenei Unbroken. Meanwhile, I think the only time I heard anything in Warcraft called Unbroken, besides the Nobundo short story, was the faceless ones in not Wrath of the Lich King, in the Frozen Throne, Warcraft 3. Draenei do not have family names, but take a title according to their deeds. That's true enough. The Broken are playable. That's nice. WoW could learn from that. The Broken, also known as Krokul in Draenei, are a mutated and devolved subrace of Draenei who lived in Outland. They, like most of the orcs, fell prey to the demon's sinister influence and were changed by the corruption. Doesn't talk about the Red Mist. They are supposedly allied with Illithid and Stormridge. Not all of them. A lot of them are still aligned with the Alliance and with the other Draenei. So that's also not entirely accurate. Largest snow faction is Broken in Outland. The Ashtongue Deathsworn is currently led by Akama, and it doesn't talk about Nobundo's faction in the Exodar at all. So that's strange. Does extend Prophet Velen, leader of the Unbroken, does extend a hand to Broken to help them find their way back. Strange that it doesn't talk about Nobundo at all. Dwarves, probably nothing revolutionary we'll find in Dwarves. Your stamina score, so constitution score, increases by 2. And same rate, mature the same rate as humans. I think that was different in the old RPGs where they mentioned the aging. I think that was different there for Dwarves. They are considered young until they reach the age of 40. Maybe that's what they're talking about. On average, they lived to be 450 years old. Each subrace is inclined to its own affiliations ever since the Great War of the Three Hammers. Like physical data that we don't really need. Speed based on the D&D dwarf speed. Dark vision, of course. Everyone's got dark vision. Natural armor. The dwarves normally get natural armor? I don't know. Get stone form. Tool proficiency with smith's tools, brewer's supplies, mason's tools, and mining tools. Languages common and dwarven. Nothing really spectacular there. Nothing really revolutionary to talk about. 3 subraces. Hill dwarves, or also known as the Wild Hammers. The Mountain Dwarves, also known as Bronzebeards, and where are the Dark Irons? Do you not have Dark Irons here? And Dark Dwarves, Mountain Dwarf, yes, Darklands Dwarf, Dark Iron. You have the Dark Iron Dwarves. They just went with the strangest name they could pick. Wildhammer dwarves, similar in appearance, though many shave their heads and they're slightly taller and leaner. Exposure to sun and high winds darkens and toughens their skin. Wildhammer's alliance are independent. Spirit increases by 1. Affiliation alliance are independent. That's the other. No, that's still. Does it list affiliation twice here? Yes, it lists affiliation twice. And Dark Irons, we'll see what they give the Dark Irons. As a Darklands dwarf, you probably hail from the Dark Iron clans, led by the sorcerer Thane Thorazan, reviled as betrayers of their fellow dwarves and living in the mountain holes of Blackrock Mountain. Dark Iron dwarves are slaves to the great elemental firelord Ragnaros and serve him in the latent volcanic mountain. Not too latent, as we've seen of it. Dark Irons seemed identical to Ironforged dwarves, except that their skin tones are ashen and grey and their eyes are golden red, so they don't seem identical, in other words. Dark Irons who adventure can often reach into the power in their bloodline and spontaneously conjure flames. Affiliation, alliance, or independent. Mostly independent if we're going with like vanilla timeline, because there was a Thorium Brotherhood was working with everyone. Hatred comes to Dark Iron dwarves against all races, and in their service to Ragnaros they see only rivals, thralls, and enemies. For combat training, Firelords favor resistance to fire damage. You know the produce flame cantrip. Okay. And the elves are one race. They're not separate. Each elf type is not a separate race, but it's all as elf. Each subrace is inclined to its own affiliations ever since the Great War of the Ancients. War of the Ancients. Great War is something different. I think the ages are from the old RPG too. Until the World Tree was destroyed, the Night Elves were immune to aging effects, so this is probably meant for players that would like to play before the Third War. Standard speed, dark vision, of course, because everyone has dark vision. Can speed, write, and you speak, read, and write Common and Elven, any dialect. So there's no like separate Donasian, Thalasian languages. That there's no, or like the whatever they ended up calling the Shaldorai language, the Nightborn language. They're not separated as all Elven. Elven is fluid with supple intonations and intricate grammar, even with strange dialects such as Naja. So I guess they would be able to speak even Naja, and that really should be a separate language, because Nagar hardly elves anymore, like elf related, but they're not elves. High elf for Quel'Thalas. High elves stand slightly taller than humans do. Yeah, the glowing eyes everywhere. The glowing eyes that the lack of glowing eyes which people were complaining about on the latest cinematic. One of those. Affiliation, alliance, or independent. High magic, the prestidigitation, detect magic, so it's basically like get a bunch of bonus spells for high elves, much like I think high elves also get that in standard D&D. Blood elves. Power. My people are addicted to it. A dependence made manifest after the Sunwell was destroyed. Kel'Thas. That was in one kinematic. I forgot which kinematic that was in. Following the Third War, 90% of the Highland population was slain during the siege of Silvermoon and the raising of Quel'Thalas. Prince Kel'Thas Sunstrider renamed his people the Blood Elves. Yeah, that's you have to watch out for these like small lore snafus, because the old RPGs, even though they were official, they also had some like strange lore conflicts. Like one of the RPGs said that Thrall killed Grom before Manoroth, and Thrall like defeated Grom, then he purged them of the corruption. You have to watch out for these things a little bit. Night elves, as a subrace of elf. As a night elf, you hail from Darnassus and Kalimdor, or Astronar, maybe before Darnassus was grown. The race's prominent eyebrows, the crazy night elf eyebrows that poke out like they were made of flesh. Like, this night elf eyebrows are really something special. Like blood elf eyebrows too. Not as prominent as night elves, but it's still crazy. And natural aspects imply a feral grace. Skin tones ranged from pale white to blue or even ruddy red, and the hair ranges in color from bright white to woodland green to lustrous black. So I guess this was made before they added these like brown, golden and brownish skin colors to blood elves, and this is night elves. I don't know. Forget what I was talking about. Affiliation, alliance, or independence. So we're going with the WoW, thing where everyone is alliance or horde, or independent in a few cases. So, all right, it's fine. We get Nightborn, so that's cool that we get like the stuff from like Legion time. That is cool, and we get the Nightborn, affiliation, horde, or independent. That was stupid even in canon. That. What do I know? So get an arcane affinity, and what does it really do? That's just spell modifications. I'm not going to go into the details of that. Resistance to arcane damage, some extra spells like high elves, and void elves also are here. Resistance to shadow damage, charisma, intelligence increased by 1, affiliation, alliance, or independent. Void magic. Void elves follow the naming traditions of the Highland culture from which they were selected from. Makes sense. They get a spatial rift. That's nice. And Forsaken. Let's see if Forsaken are undead in this one. Forsaken are undead, and thus do not age and only die of violence or poisons and diseases that can affect the undead. It says here they are undead, but does it give them the actual creature type? Does it give them the knowledge from beyond? Cannibalize, you can consume the corpse of any natural creature. Dark vision, of course. Everyone has dark vision. Affiliation, horde, independent. Does it actually give them undead nature? You don't require air, food, drink, or sleep. You are also immune to non-magical poisons and diseases and have advantage to effects that cause the exhausted and poisoned conditions. You also count as undead for the purposes of healing spells and effects that target undead. That is nice. They're not going with the way like how many races even in 5th edition D&D are just treated like they're like just humanoid. I think they changed that later with the Warforged, but originally the Warforged, which are constructs, Warforged were treated like regular humanoids, and that was particularly strange. But I'm glad they did this. I'm glad they gave them the actual undead creature type. Gnomes. Yeah. Engineering, and Arcana gnomes are behind many developments in the intellectual creative sides. I'm going to speed it up a little because there are probably not going to be anything extremely special. Artificer's role, intelligence history check, proficiency with engineer's tools, extra language. You can speak, read and write common and Gnomish. Gnomish language, which uses the Dwarven script, is renowned for its technical treatises and its catalogues of knowledge about the natural world. Natural thinker, gnome cunning. Something that I notice only now while editing is I thought I just had now that there is no like leper gnome option for the gnomes, and like I know that they're not playable in World of Warcraft, but there are a bunch of options that are not playable, a bunch of like sub races that are not playable in World of Warcraft that are made playable in here. And I know nobody likes leper gnomes because they're just ugly, sick, diseased gnomes, but there are a slightly different variant of gnome like, hell, mechanomes, but I guess they weren't really making this in BFA anymore, so there's no mechanomes for that reason. Either the diaper gnomes or the actual mechanomes from like Ulduar, but we could really use leper gnomes because they do appear in a few places in World of Warcraft, and they could have a very unique setup to make as a separate race. So I think that's also an opportunity that was missed in this. Goblin. They employ vast teams of engineers and alchemists to expand on current technology and produce gadgets and potions to suit a wide array of applications. No sub-races for goblins, so probably no hobgoblins, no other races, so goblin-related races like gill goblins, or otherwise known as the Kelfins, if I recall correctly. That would have been nice to have, like the Kelfins from Cataclysm later BFA. It would have been nice. We get only the standard goblins. Extra languages because goblins are super smart. They're very stupid kind of smart, but very smart. We get 25 feet. Dark vision, of course. Everyone gets dark vision. Anything you purchase costs 10% less, and anything you sell grants you 10% more of its value. I think I would have phrased it a little differently for D&D, because this 10% looks a little bit odd, and it sounds like it would be really powerful. But then it would be really powerful and really not powerful, because then the DM can just increase the price behind the scenes and still make you pay the same. And so its usability is really situational. Humans, of course. Human traits, nothing extremely special. Humans live up to be 80. I know some people who would question that in real life, who lived longer. And I can hear somebody saying, but this is medieval, so people lived shorter lives. This is not medieval. This is Warcraft. Warcraft isn't medieval, and even if it was, it has like magic and other things that can change these things a lot. Like in my game, I have the whole Warcraft Earth section, and we had a couple of historical characters that survived longer than they did in the real world, because the magic could save them. Like Henry the Lion had a couple of daughters who didn't survive into adulthood, and in this timeline in Warcraft Earth, the daughters survived into adulthood because they had like better magical medicine that could help them survive. And this is something that people don't really consider a lot when world building anything. That is an aside from the topic. Orcs, of course, not half orcs but proper orcs. It talks a lot about their lore, their origins, orcish traits. Mature and age a little faster than humans, reaching adulthood around the age of 20. I'm not sure if that is really faster than humans. I mean, you could argue that some human males do not reach adulthood until they're in their 50s, but jokes aside, that's not really faster than humans. Affiliation Horde, of course. It should be Horde and Independent, because there are independent orcs. Like Blackrock Clan in the Blackrock Mountain is independent from Thrall's Horde, so it should be Horde or Independent, because everyone should be Alliance or Horde or Independent, because there was always some factions, breakaway factions. Warrior Tradition. You're treated as a first level warrior, hunter, or rogue for talents, unless you later take a level in one of these said classes. Aggressive, brutal, critical, relentless, shock resistant, talent. So I think in this book, talents are what they called essentially feats from D&D. Yeah, we're going to speed through this Pandaren. I could use a Pandaren in the actual D&D sometimes. Stamina score increases by 2, spirit increases by 1. in affiliation, independent, horde, or alliance. That's really what all the races should be saying, because everyone can be independent, everyone can be, and most people can be horde alliance, because this is because we are individuals, we can join whatever faction we want, and it may be harder for some people or easier for other characters. But when you're playing a tabletop RPG game, you can just make whatever reason you have for being make up whatever reason you have for being a different faction that you normally would have been. Like, if you want to have a human in the horde, like, you could have a human in the horde, as strange as it would be. You could have been like raised by orcs. You could have been like one of the traitors from Alterac who like went with the horde and then like just kind of stuck around with them. Anything could happen when you are in a tabletop RPG. So I really don't think this affiliation thing is really necessary. It sure gives you a bit of a flavor with the alliance and horde flavor for Warcraft, but it's really not necessary for a TTRPG. You can use your reaction when you fall to reduce any falling damage you take by an amount equal to 5 times your stamina modifier. Okay, that could be useful in some situations. Feat. You may choose one of the following feats of your choice. So maybe talents are not feats? We'll get back to that. Tauren, of course. Tauren get normal speed. That's interesting. Size. Tauren much larger than other races. But they are medium sized. You can use an attack to make a gore attack with your horns. That is nice. If they were remaking racials to all the old races to make them more up to the standard of the newer races, I think they would give Tauren some options like this. You count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight you can push, drag, or lift, so they count as large for the purposes of that, but they still are medium because everyone has to be medium or maybe small in D&D, because you can't have large characters in D&D because there's several mechanical implications. In my system, you can be large, you can be small, you can be many sizes, as long as you don't occupy like half my battle map. As long as you don't do that, you can be a lot of sizes, because it has much less mechanical implications in my system, because we don't really do like oversized weapons, like weapons with that made for larger characters. It's possible to do in the system, but we don't really do that. You get War Stomp. You gain the Tremor talent as a first level warrior. If you later gain the talent, you can use the talent 2 additional times. Languages common to Raha, nothing revolutionary. Trolls. Several troll subspecies exist, and they are almost universally considered depraved by the civilized peoples of the world due to their brutality, cannibalistic ways, and use of dark magic. Jungle trolls are humanoids that live in Azeroth's wilderness, and ice trolls are known as the descendants of a vicious civilization that to this day resists the Lich King's dominion in Northrend. Each tribe includes a chieftain. As a troll, you are often viewed as vicious, brutal, and evil, and history lends credence to this reputation. Trollish traits. Blessed by Loa. Again, the vicious mockery cantrip. That's interesting. Naturally attuned. You gain a favored terrain as a first level hunter. So I guess hunters got the ranger or a favorite terrain from D&D in this one. Rapid regeneration, keen nose, because they got a big nose. Your advantage on all spirit perception tests related to smell, because they got a really big nose. That's very interesting. You can speed, read, and write common and troll, also known as Zandali. Forest Troll Darkspear. That doesn't sound right. What does the paragraph actually talk about? As a forest troll, you belong to the Darkspear tribe. No. The Zandalari. No. Or their associates, such as most trolls who inhabit the isles of a great sea. No, definitely not. That's describing jungle trolls, except the Zandalari, who are not jungle trolls. And that is puzzling me, because we have seen stuff from Legion and stuff from even from BFA in this book. So people writing this would have known the Zandalari were not jungle trolls. Like even in Mists of Pandaria, we have seen that Zandalari were no longer considered just jungle trolls. Yes, in the old RPG, Rastakan was called a jungle troll. But the Zandalari were said explicitly that they were not jungle trolls, if I recall correctly. So you would have known by Mists of Pandaria, you would have known the Zandalari were not jungle trolls. So even if this said jungle trolls, this shouldn't be mentioning the Zandalari, because they are a separate subrace. And of course the big mistake of calling them forest trolls when they are a different thing. Darkspear jungle, and now it says jungle trolls. Darkspear jungle trolls are steadfastly loyal to the orcs. Though they practice voodoo and many retain their savage natures, Thrall lets them live in his borders and generally do what they want. They are suspicious of the Forsaken, but so is everyone else. Forest jungle trolls have innate aptitudes they usually only show when they develop. Choose one of the below abilities: Alchemist, Supplies, or Proficiency with Charisma, Intimidation, and Agility, Stealth. Ice trolls, Drakari. Nothing special here. Sand trolls, Faraki. See, now sand trolls were supposed to be a jungle troll tribe originally. They got kind of a unique look to them since then, but they were originally supposed to be just jungle trolls, not a separate race. So it's the trolls are treated very strangely here. The actual forest trolls are not mentioned separately here. Here it says jungle trolls are treated as forest trolls. I just noticed this now. Jungle trolls are not forest trolls. Zandalari are not jungle trolls. They are not forest trolls. This is completely wrong. I know this book is not being worked on anymore, but this has to be changed. If you ever work on this book, and again, this has to be changed. You can't have forest trolls and jungle trolls lumped together, because they are two very different races, and Zandalari have to be another race, another separate race. And no mention of dark trolls at all, which I know they were really shafted in World of Warcraft. We haven't really seen dark trolls. We've seen like one in Zandalar, but they also should be a separate race, separate troll race. So the trolls are done very wrong. This needs a very big rewrite. Worgen. The Worgen's first verified appearance in the Eastern Kingdoms has been traced back to the Third War, when the Archmage Arugal utilized the wolf beast. See, and now I'm going to be analyzing the lore in a lot of detail again, because of what they did with the trolls. I'm very disappointed on the troll treatment. Since there's no humiliation of Gilneas, found themselves trapped with no hope of escape. Worgen traits: independent or alliance. Your size is medium. Dark vision, of course, everyone gets dark vision. Aberration, not actually aberrations, but they have advantage to saves against poisons and resistance against poison damage. Interesting. You can shift from human to Worgen form as an action. Shifting lasts until you end it on your turn, or as a bonus action. You also gain the features described below. You can shift from human to Worgen as an action, and then from Worgen to human as a bonus action. Okay? You can use the dash action as a bonus action. Okay? Nothing extremely unusual. See, I read about this feature before, that they have, depending on your mental acuity, willpower, or predilections in combat, the curse is either a major or minor part of your identity. You can modify your Worgen form ability with one of the following modifiers. Embrace the beast. The curse more heavily affects your body than your mind or abilities of perception. You can shift as a bonus action instead of an action. While shifting, you gain temporary hit points equal to your level plus your stamina modifier. Although you can only... Furthermore, when you use attack action with... Will not go into a lot of the mechanics. Reject the beast. The curse more heavily affects your mind and spirit, enhancing your abilities to track or perceive, but is unable to fully take hold of you. At the end of a long rest, you gain temporary hit points equal to your level. When you are in your Worgen form, these temporary hit points are suppressed, but you gain keen senses and have advantage on perception checks that involve scent. So I like the thematic choice where the Worgen has to choose if they embrace the beast or reject the beast, and it's very emblematic of the general werewolf themes, and I like that. And like how this was done. And a special half-breed race. The Warcraft universe also has a share of mixed origin characters, or half races, most commonly half-elves, humans and elves of any type, including Fulia, the half-night elf, half-orcs, humans and orcs, or Draenei and orcs, and half-ogres, or from orcs and ogres. Some of the more famous examples are Garona half-orcan, half-orson, however you want to pronounce her name, and the half-elven Alodi, the first guardian, or the children of Veresa or Alaria. Mixed races are treated as both races with spell, magic effects, and mechanical purposes, but may be looked down upon by their parent races. See, it doesn't go into a lot of that. Half-elves are misunderstood by both parent races. Half-orcs are hated by both their parents. Why are they hated by both their parents? Why do you assume a very specific type of backstory for the character? This doesn't do that, really just briefly mentions that trend and doesn't dwell on it a lot, which I like. And which usually either falls to either parents' affiliation or is independent, which removes at an average of both parents if they are not both 30 feet. Listen, if they are both 30 feet of speed, the average of 30 and 30 is 30. So even if they are both 30 feet, the creature still moves at an average of both parents. So this is completely unnecessary, but this is me being pedantic again. The creature takes all racial penalties of both parents present, such as blood loss, mana addiction. You could doesn't say anything about Worgen, so you could technically make a half Worgen using this, while in the lore you don't have half Worgen in the lore. The Worgen in the lore, Worgen curse is not transmitted by blood. So a child of a Worgen may inherit some maybe a perception bonus to smell, but otherwise they would not really inherit the Worgen curse in any major sense. Dran Halforsen can choose their fathers, so it's just an example. So that video got very long. You have seen only maybe half of it, and I'm quickly recording this epilogue a few days after the original recording to let you know that I cut this video into more parts, and I promised to get you the second part sooner than I have been putting out videos lately. So fret not, I will give you the part 2 soon, but meanwhile I hope you enjoyed the first part of our look at the fan-made Warcraft RPG for the 5th edition of D&D, and I hope to see you next. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe and all the YouTube things, and I hope to see you next time.